cloudy today in Pasadena.
All right, we're live. We're live. Hello, Jimmy. I'm here with Jimmy Dore, Richard Medhurst and Jimmy Dore. It's good to see you, Jimmy. How are you feeling? How are you doing? Just tell us how you are, because I saw what you were posting on Twitter about, you just got the second shot. How's everything going?
So I got the second vaccine, the Moderna, a week ago Saturday, right? And the first shot went like everyone else. I just mild symptoms for a few days afterwards, no big deal. But the second one, I'm still feeling the symptoms a week later. So I was just concerned, like, oh shit, is this not supposed to happen, right? So a lot of people have contacted me to say no, that it happened to a lot of people. That can last for over a week, the symptoms, and but I'm like, okay, so all right, so made me feel a little bit better. But then but my favorite thing is the people who bust my balls on Twitter go, well, hey, if you don't believe the government, why would you believe the government about a vaccine? Which that sounds logical, but I didn't go to the government. I went to my doctor who I've known for 15 years. I said, do you think it's good with, my condition, my special bone problem, my thing? And my doctor said, yeah, you should definitely get it. And I'm like, okay. And then I asked my other doctor, my endocrinologist, said, do you think I should get it? In my condition? They said, yes, you should. So that's who I'm listening to, my private doctors. I didn't ask Nancy Pelosi if I should get a vaccine.
All right, no, that's good, because I imagined you're not feeling like 100%, so that's why I appreciate you coming on regardless, and I hope you feel better. I hope the effects subside. I think the last time we spoke, if I'm not mistaken, this was in the middle of or just before the. Yeah, I think this was in the middle of the force the vote stuff, and it was just before they actually went and re-voted for Nancy Pelosi again. I mean, the dust has settled now. We have Biden. I want to ask you something, Jimmy. Are you feeling grateful? Has he exceeded your expectations? How are you feeling, man?
I voted for a pathological liar, bloodthirsty, warmongering tool of Wall Street and the health insurance companies. And I don't know. I just thought I'd feel happier. Actually, I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I didn't vote for Joe Biden. I voted for the Greens both times. So, yeah, it's amazing, this crazy spin that people are putting on Joe Biden right now, that he's somehow exceeding anyone's expectations. He's not even fulfilling his own expectations. He said that he was going to give us the public option. He was going to get us a $15 minimum wage. He's not doing any of that shit. The child tax credit is temporary. It is fucking crazy. He's not putting the corporate tax rate up to where it was. He's doing that thing. It's the ratchet effect. You've seen that before, right? So so we just keep lurching rightward, right? Keep lurching rightward. So it's this idea that's, I mean, you can't piss. That's that saying, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. And that's what the Democrats and right now, that's what Bernie Sanders and AOC is doing. It's weird, isn't it, Richard, to see Bernie Sanders not try to pull Biden to the left, but allow Biden to pull him and everyone else to the right.
Amazing.
Isn't that amazing how they're out there always defending a shit sandwich instead of trying to get their policies included in the bills? Why wouldn't Bernie Sanders put a hold on the bill like Joe Manchin unless the $15 minimum wage was in it? Because they all fucking campaigned on it. Why doesn't he play hardball back? You tell fucking me. It's because he's pretending he works for Joe Biden instead of what he's actually supposed to be doing is representing a movement in the Senate and being an independent senator from Vermont. But we all know that's all bullshit.
I can't stand this crap that they want to make you believe that this Joe Manchin, some senator from West Virginia, is more popular and powerful than Bernie Sanders and all of these so-called progressives combined. I never heard of this jagoff before he actually put his foot down on this bill. Isn't it interesting? I bet you people have heard of AOC. I bet you they heard of Bernie Sanders. I bet they have some political capital. What I laughed at, again, someone might come and tell me that this is a routine, but from what I gathered, Biden won't even meet with them. Like, he sent Ron Klain, the White House chief of staff, to go meet with them because he won't even meet with them directly. So I just found that interesting. But just if you'll allow me, if I can just give people some context, just let me play that video of AOC at her recent town hall where she's talking about Joe Biden exceeding her expectations.
One thing that I will say is that I do think that the Biden administration and President Biden has definitely exceeded expectations that progressives had. I'll be frank, I think a lot of us expected a much more conservative administration. And I think that his, not only what has ultimately come out, but the active invitation and willingness and collaboration with progressives in his first 100 days, or almost 100 days, has been very impressive. And so while there are there are areas where there are just plain areas of disagreement, I think that the actual conduct of the administration has absolutely been in good faith, but not just in good faith, but active incorporation of progressive legislation, and also for those of us individually. I can at least say that there has been a lot of openness and willingness and flexibility in incorporating many of our goals, requests, demands, etc. And I think that it has been to the benefit of the country.
What on God's earth is she talking about? What cooperation is this? I really find myself losing the words sometimes, because they put together this verbal diarrhea word salad, and I'm just sitting there like trying to piece together, like, have I gone nuts? Did they do something that I was sleeping under a cave when they did it?
Well, I can't wait to see how Ryan Grimm's going to spin this into being something smart.
Did you see that crap he was trying to cover for the cops showing up at Ryan's house? Ryan Wentz? Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yes, I did. Of course. Yeah, I did. The guys, I don't, I always give these guys credit for being smarter than me, because I come from show business and nightclubs, and, I'm a comedian and not an academic. And I always give these guys too much credit. They're not, these guys are legit dumb. Like like the people, like, I don't know who they think they're bullshitting. It's like, and it's like there's some polite society where they all agree not to call each other on their bullshit or something. But I'm not from their society. I don't want to be in their society. Their society kind of repulses me. And that is the corporate journalism of America. It's fucking horrible. And, they're all propagandists and they don't care. So, or they prop it up. And then what worse is when they shit on independent journalists or they punch down. And what's weird is that the YouTube CEO is referring to independent journalists on YouTube as people producing content in their basement. That's what people used to say to speak of YouTube in the pejorative. That's what their enemies used to say. Why would the CEO of YouTube be referring to their own content creators that way? It doesn't seem good for people like us, Richard, is what I'm trying to say. So we should get our licks in now, because they're coming for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, actually, speaking of that, I remember a few months ago this Nomiki, or I barely know anything about her, but she comes on, she was bashing on you, saying that, you don't know anything about politics, and I studied this and I went to college. And I was like, yeah, but you're dumb. Like, you don't know how to play politics. You're an idiot. That doesn't mean anything. And they just use it as some kind of card, like, to rub it in people's face, like, Jimmy, boy, you're not from our society. You don't understand how we function around here. I mean, I thought that was despicable, honestly, and it really exposes their class bias. Like they legitimately feel and represent another class. That's what they're about. That's why they punch down and they have to shit on people and refuse them healthcare. Like this is bewildering to me that they do this. And I can't believe that you guys are still fighting over this. When
AOC did it, AOC said that I was. This isn't coming from approved activists.
What is that?
That's funny. She was a bartender 3 years ago. I mean, what are you talking about? Approved active? What the fuck? That's just, again, it's like, oh, now she's on the inside and they want to be gatekeepers. They're elitist gatekeepers.
Yeah.
And, most of those people, if you look hard enough, there's going to be some NATO money in there. And, some money from the NED, the National Endowment for Democracy. I mean, even Anna Kasparian did that NATO conference, which she claimed she didn't get paid to go give tongue baths to war criminals. Somehow that's okay. Legit freaking war criminals. And but somehow she didn't get. Yeah, and it's a great honor. It's a great honor.
You got no shame,
but
man.
she's got a problem with Jimmy Dore. That's a real squiggly line of morality, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Like, how dare you, Jimmy? We're with Mrs. Albright. Be quiet. Their morals are completely upside down, and it's interesting because I've seen the same crowd kind of try to do that to me. Like they want to claim I'm not even Syrian. Like the literal birther movement, like coming around like, oh, he's not Syrian, he doesn't speak Arabic. What the fuck? Like, these people are so deranged. I mean, it's incredible.
Well, I like how, it's really been the force to vote for me was really such an eye opener. I thought I knew the media was corrupt. But until you see outright hit pieces written about you in mainstream press, like, it's just shocking, Yeah. I mean, CNN had already done that to me, and the Washington Post had already twisted shit. So it's exactly what Malcolm X said. If you read the newspapers, they'll have you hating the oppressed and loving the oppressors. And that's how it works, right? And look what they're doing to Andrew Yang right now. It's hilarious because he's an outsider who's going to win. So the establishment press totally trashes him because the press is owned by the people that we're supposed to be investigating. I mean, that's the problem. Anyway,
I'm not too up to date what Andrew Yang is doing, but
he's running for mayor in New York, and he's leading in the polls. So they're writing it. They're trying to say he's sexist and he's a white supremacist and that he's a right winger. They're doing all that shit they do to anybody who gets to their left. They immediately smear. And look what they. So what's funny like about Joe Rogan? Yeah, is Joe Rogan endorsed. First he liked Tulsi Gabbard, and then he liked Bernie Sanders, and he even said I would vote for AOC. So what happened was he got to the left of Hillary Clinton and Elizabeth Warren and the Democratic Party and the DNC and the apparatchiks in the press, and so they started to smear Joe Rogan as some alt-right guy.
Yeah, I remember this.
To their left, and that I had the exact same shit happen to me. So it's like, really? They're like, they go, oh, you went on Tucker Carlson. Yeah, I went on there, and Tucker Carlson admitted that it was for the force of my argument. I changed his mind on Julian Assange.
Thank you.
So now the #1 news host in America gets to talk to half the country and tell them the truth about Julian Assange. That used to be called a victory.
Yes.
I'm old enough to remember when the left, that was the gold standard, that you were supposed to reach out to people with your message and convert them. That was what we were supposed to do. But what works right now is in the era of since Hillary Clinton couldn't beat a game show host, since people won't vote for neoliberalism anymore, what they're doing is practicing the politics of division.
Yeah, I mean, with Andrew Yang, I know he's running for mayor. The thing that bothers me the most about him is the stuff he said about Palestine. But like everything else that you just mentioned, I wasn't even aware that they were doing that. So, I didn't even see it.
That's not why they're angry. That's not why they're angry.
Right.
That's not what they're criticizing him for. There's a lot of shit to criticize Andrew Yang for. When that's not what they're doing.
Yeah, they never exactly. That's what's so hilarious. They never go after anything actually legitimate. That's incredible. And speaking of Assange, I wanted to show you this clip which just came out yesterday from RT. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Jimmy, but it's from the former British ambassador to Russia, my ambassador, right? So these people are supposed to represent me apparently. He talks about Assange, okay? Let me just play this clip real quick.
I've noticed that the Russian ambassador did an interview on the same Monday to BBC, Andrew Marr, famously dressed down by Noam Chomsky.
Richard, I can't hear the clip.
All right, hold on a second. I'm going to switch it over for you.
Oh, that's my favorite host on OT. Oh, this is the best. I know that you're a fan of Noam Chomsky. We had Noam on earlier today, and he was talking about the COVID relief.
Oh, man, I don't know how I can play the audio, but people got it now. Hold on, I'm gonna try and play it.
Please tell in America. With us podcaster from America, the popular Jimmy Dore show. He's here with us now today. The song goes, Julian Assange. And where are you going? Is that close? Am I doing a good impression?
It's extremely close. I think people who can't hear the audio, they heard it now anyway. But I'm going to try and play it. I hope you can hear it through my speakers at the very least. If not, I'll transcribe it.
Interview on the state mandated BBC, Andrew Marr, famously dressed down by Noam Chomsky, has to be said. And the Russian ambassador just said, Julian Assange is being tortured here in London. Why are you talking about Navalny? And there's a blank expression from Andrew Marr. Do you think we live in a totalitarian system here in Britain, where someone can be tortured up the road here for jumping bail, ostensibly, and the US's desire to extradite him, whereas it's Navalny's parole that is leading the news here and these troops on the Ukraine border?
Come on, you know that's a ridiculous question. We don't live in a totalitarian system here. We live in a country where individual rights are massively protected by the law and by several hundred years of history. Assange is not being tortured. We don't torture people. The whole premise of your question is just false and visibly false.
The UN Special Rapporteur has repeatedly said that on our program.
Julian Assange is not being tortured, according to him. Oh, really? That's a good one.
In prison for what did he do again? What is he accused of doing?
Jumping bail.
He's accused of doing journalism. He's accused of doing journalism. That's the problem.
So, they say he jumped bail. He didn't. He was given asylum. And nonetheless, he served that sentence. It was 50 weeks. He's in jail now. He's not serving a sentence. He's not convicted of a crime. And this asswipe is coming over here and saying that, civil liberties are protected by the rule of law. Boy, yes. What do you know what laws they're trying to pass right now, Jimmy? They're trying to pass the Overseas Operations Bill, which protects UK soldiers from war crimes. They're trying to pass the Spy Cops Bill, which lets undercover agents, not just police and MI5, anyone from even the gambling and health agencies go and commit murder and rape. This is real shit. I wish I was exaggerating. I wish this was hyperbole. It's not. They're trying to pass this anti-protest bill. They're shitting on everyone's rights, not to mention what they've done to Assange, on top of Assange. And he's coming here and pretending oh yeah, this is very transparent. At least we could see Navalny's trial. There were activists queuing up from 5 a.m. in front of the Old Bailey to let me in to actually, witness the trial. Because, they were throwing journalists, they were throwing NGOs and observers, they were revoking their access. There was, COVID lockdowns, but somehow they would still let people in without masks, but only 5 people. Just absolute totalitarian shit. And now he's coming here and pretending like it's better than Russia. Or that
Who was that? Who was that guy?
That's the former British ambassador to Russia.
That's funny.
Yeah.
What is he supposed to say? He can't say, of course, we live in a surveillance state. Of course, we're the terrorists. We're the ones setting the world on fire. Of course, what we did to Libya is war crime. Of course, what we're trying to do, of course. What is he supposed to say? I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, if he told the truth, then George Orwell wouldn't be necessary.
Yeah, and ironically, he actually talks about Libya in that one. He justifies it again.
Of course they do. I mean, there was a woman on Chris Hayes the other night justifying the Iraq War, saying that we would have never got around to the bargaining table for negotiations if we didn't. It's just we're run by psychopaths. This idea that psychopaths like this, Sam Harris, who I, big fan of his work debunking fundamentalist religions. But his foreign policy is just nuts. It's just like somehow there's people that are worse than us in another. There's a culture more murderous than us, more bloodthirsty, more corrupt.
Gotta go kill him.
And there just isn't that we have all the military bases around the world. We spend way more than everybody else to kill people. We kill way more people. The greenhouse gases from just from the U.S. military alone pollutes more than 140 countries combined. So we are the rapists of not only the planet, but we're the murderous terrorists. I mean, look at what the Mideast is on fire, and who's there doing it? It's us.
Yeah, it's the British and the Americans, unfortunately. And I want to ask you just connecting that to what just happened in the U.S. with George Floyd. I mean, what do you think of the verdict? I know he hasn't been sentenced yet, Derek Chauvin, but what do you think about the state of policing because of the George Floyd protests, because of, just every other day there's someone being shot by police? I mean, I just want to know what you think is going on, especially because the Democrats are pretending like they're going to introduce the George Floyd and Justice in Policing Act, which has some things in there where you might I look like, for example, you have to de-escalate, and I was looking at that, I was like, that wasn't the law already? You're not trained to de-escalate in the first place?
No. It's a culture of policing, and it's an unaccountable culture of policing. And, it's stocked with people who come from the military, which is not the mindset you want in as a police person, and, there's so many problems. Like here in Los Angeles, the police are occupying force, right? Because the cops don't live in the community. They live 50 miles north in Canyon Country, and then they drive into South Central to go police them, and they see them as the other because they are the other. I mean, so that's just one problem, right? And that's in a lot of community. I grew up in Chicago, and I don't know if it's still a law. My dad was a cop in Chicago, and the law was if you were a city employee, you had to live in the city. You couldn't take your money and the money the taxpayers were paying you and go spend it on anyway. So I think that's a good idea, especially for policing. Anyway, but there's the bigger problem is the cultural problem, and so people always think it's a problem of a bad apple here or a bad apple there, and that's not the case. It's a culture because the people, it's an overly brutal culture, and that covers for the crazies too. And if you don't go along with it, if you just don't succumb to the culture, you either succumb to it or you leave. Those are the two things that happen. You succumb to the culture or you leave. And that's not me saying that. That's people who've studied this as academics and who are also police. Michael Woods, who was a Baltimore police sergeant, and also has a master's degree, and he studied this, and he came on our show and explained all this to us. And about the big problem of policing is that the police tells the city how they're going to police you. What's supposed to happen is there should be citizen review boards, and they shouldn't be able to investigate themselves. And what's supposed to happen is it should be the citizens who tell the police, here's how we want you to enforce. So let's say there's a curfew violation. This is what we want. We want you to take the kids home instead of arrest them. But right now, it's the other way around. The cops tell you how they're going to do it. Like we could tell them, hey, we don't want you tear gassing people. We don't get to tell them that. You know what I mean? It's like, so we should be ones telling the cops how to police us. And right now it's backwards. And so that's another big change you should make. Where there's also shouldn't be people from the military in our police. That's the wrong mindset. So there's all these things, and there, you hear people say a police officer's number one job is to make sure they get home safe at night. That's not their job. No, their job is to make sure I get home safe at night. That's why we're supposed to give them deference and respect, and they have monopoly on violence, and they can kill people. That's why, because they're supposed to be risking their lives, but turns out they're not. They're the itchiest trigger fingers anywhere. They're the most nervous motherfuckers in the world. Yeah. They pull out their gun faster than anybody and start shooting. It's the opposite of what you want in that job, because now they're trained that their safety comes first, which it's not supposed to. The citizen's safety is supposed to come first. So that's a whole cultural shift that needs to happen in policing, and it's not there right now. So what they're trying to do is fear for their safety first, second, and fourth. And that's so there's all these problems. I mean, there's such a cultural shift that needs to happen in policing. This ain't, hate to bring it to you, ain't never going to happen.
I agree with everything you just said. It's absolutely 100% true. And just I'd like to make a point. I made this before. Is that you know how the Arab Spring, particularly in the countries that were invaded, like or bombed, like Libya and Syria. One of the pillars of their arguments for this imperialism was that, look at how brutal the state is towards its own citizens. Look at the state violence. Dude, just in the last year alone, I've never even seen a fraction of the violence coming out of the U.S. like I have in Syria. Like it just doesn't exist. I've never seen, how the NYPD was just running over protesters. I've never seen a video of that in Syria. And that's not to say that the government there is perfect and they have their angels. No, obviously we're not saying that. But the argument that they made to go and bomb another country. I mean, Jesus Christ, you can make it 20 times over for the U.S., right? If you want to talk about state violence. So that's unbelievable to me. And one of the other arguments, which was this chemical gas nonsense. And, I forgot to thank you for this last time. I want to say it now, Jimmy, a few years ago, when you were already covering that CNN correspondent sniffing the backpack, this ridiculous crap. I think I have a picture of it over here. Yeah, this one for those who are not familiar, where she's just casually sniffing alleged chemicals that were supposedly used by the Syrians, and that's proof that an attack happened. You were one of the only people that was debunking this crap while they're dragging Syria's name through the dirt. So I wanted to thank you for that, because it's not popular to go against their bullshit. And did you see what happened in the last 2 days where the OPCW they suspended Syria? Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
So they issued a second report, and where of course they took out all of the real findings from their scientists, and they decided to suspend Syria, and they've banned it from voting and from holding executive office, and it's the first time any country has been banned. And of course, the United States, Britain, France is the one who introduced the motion. They all voted to kick out Syria. So I mean, what do you think about the state of the OPCW? Because I know you covered this extensively as well before.
It's like Chris Hedges says, they lie, cheat, and steal right out in the open now. I mean, it's just the OPCW. How many times how many more whistleblowers do we have to hear come out? How many times do we have to have it explained to us by Aaron Mate? I think he just gave testimony, in fact, last week to the UN about this. But I've been battling my COVID symptoms, so I've been in and out of the news. So I'm not as up on this as I wish I was to talk about it. But I just, in general, everybody knows the story that the OPCW has been corrupted, and they've been by NATO forces, whoever that is, and certainly the United States. And, the intelligence community has infiltrated the OPCW. So now they suppress the exculpatory evidence that shows that Assad was not gassing his own people. In fact, it was a hoax. And of course, it didn't make sense to anybody logically, any of those gas attacks. Why would a guy who's winning the war, which Assad was, why would he now do the one inexplicable thing that would bring the United States into the war? I mean, why would he do that thing? Why would he decide to kill 50 people with some gas instead of just with bullets? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It didn't make sense to anybody. And it's exactly just like the Iraq war. It doesn't have to make sense, because if they get everybody on TV to say it, then everybody on TV said it. And there you go. I mean, and look at the example they made out of someone like Tulsi Gabbard, who's willing to tell the truth of that. So there's someone who's actually in the military. They smear her left and right. That's how much they respect the military. They respect the military as long as they're doing the bidding of the military-industrial complex and the oil companies. That's when they respect them. But as soon as they say no to war and tell the truth about it, they don't respect them. So they respect you as long as you're a tool and a pawn. They don't. There's no respect for the military of the United States. That's all bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually just talking to the Russian ambassador here in Vienna for the IAEA and the UN, and He's also participating in the Iran nuclear talks. And he told me about one case where allegedly a Syrian helicopter dropped a barrel of chlorine that just so happened to be the exact diameter that fit into a ventilator shaft. Like, just the most ridiculous shit. And, you know, it's like you said with Iraq. If they lied about Iraq, they will lie about anything. I mean, the lies about Iraq were behemoths. They were, you could not make bigger lies up. I mean, that's real conspiracy theory shit. Those people are the biggest frauds in the world. And it's unfortunate that the OPCW has been compromised like that. It really is. And, you know, as you mentioned, it made no sense. I mean, I even did, when I had Aaron Mate on, you know, I had maps of Damascus and I was explaining the geography, like they won the battle to take back the countryside of Damascus. And it just makes no sense. So, you know, anyone with half a brain cell could have debunked this, but of course you can't expect people like that sniffing backpacks to do an honest job.
Well, Richard, you know what's crazy is, like, I've been on famous people's podcasts. I remember when this, you know, Barack Obama was there, he was wanting to go do Syria stuff. And I would tell people, like, you know, we're funding terrorists. And they're like, Jimmy, what are you, crazy? You sound like I'm like, no, this is in the New York Times on page 38, but it's in there. We're funding. And then, so now it's even in Wikipedia. I just tell people, look up timber sycamore. It's like, they admit it. It's right in Wikipedia, for F's sake. Timber sycamore. There it is. It's so that and anyways, so
yeah, they just don't care.
Not that Wikipedia is an accurate source, but it certainly is a tool of the American intelligence community. Just go look at my Wikipedia page. Anybody who's anti-war, Wikipedia, you just get smeared on Wikipedia. They still have that lie up that what I report. CNN said that Jimmy Dore spread conspiracy theories about the gas attacks in Syria. Yeah, no, I debunked the conspiracy theories, but that still stays on my Wikipedia page, which is ridiculous. My point about saying that about timber sycamore, it's like, if that wasn't 100% true, Wikipedia wouldn't be allowed to have it up there. That's because it's about the establishment and the war machine. They would get it taken down. But if you say something against the war machine, they will leave it up. That's what's happening with me.
Christ, that's unbelievable. Speaking the truth and debunking is now a conspiracy theory. That's crazy. I can't wait till they make one about me.
So they talk, Richard. I was called when I was debunking Russiagate, which is what we did. Aaron Mate came on my show for 2 years, and we debunked Russiagate, and he got an award for it. He got the Independent Journalist Award for it, right? The gold standard for independent journalism, the I.F. Stone Izzy Award. He got for debunking. While we were debunking Russiagate, the Young Turks were calling us conspiracy theorists. While they were calling every one of their political enemies Russians. They were McCarthy smearing everybody without any evidence. They were smearing Julian Assange. The Young Turks were doing that. Yeah. So I know what that feels like, to be called a conspiracy theorist as you're debunking the biggest conspiracy of my lifetime. Yeah, but that's what they do. That's called projection.
Exactly. And by the way, just speaking of Young Turks, I covered this a few weeks ago because I found this random clip where you guys, when you were back in the day when you were still there, they were talking about Gaza, and like you were, I could just see your facial expressions, the dread of being in that room with these like fucking warmongers trying to justify the slaughter of Palestinians. And I was just like, I'm getting second hand cringe over here. Jesus, I don't know how you lasted that long, Jimmy. Respect, I tip my hat to you, honestly. Like, you were the only sane person in that room, right? You're like, yeah, they dig tunnels, so we bomb schools, right? That makes sense. I mean, it's crazy.
No, I think. I think that was Dave Rubin, right?
Yeah, he was saying that, and you pointed out how crazy he was sounding. I mean, it was.
Yeah, that was a tough one for me with Dave, but that was tough, and yeah, I don't understand how you can think like that. That was really tough. Yeah.
No, I really tip my hat to you for being. I would have been shouting already, so I tip my hat to you for having so much patience. But you know, Jimmy, just as a last a question, just to wrap this up, and I'd ask this kind of for myself personally as well. You know, I think how do you unplug from all the bullshit? How do you keep your fucking sanity with all of these smear merchants, these conspiracy theorists, these warmongers, imperialists? How do you keep your sanity in all of this?
Well, YouTube has found a way to grind my growth down to a halt, right? They don't recommend our videos. We're not on a level playing field anymore. Like I was telling you at the top of the show, if you go to YouTube and put in George Floyd, no independent news comes up to cover it. If you put in Syria, no independent. So, that used to be my specialty. You used to be able to go to YouTube and on the front page, my video about Syria, or my video about Bernie Sanders, or my video about the DNC, or my video about Venezuela would be on the front page.
Yep.
Because it was about a trending topic, and it was getting a lot of views, right? And positive, and a lot of interaction and a lot of likes, right? So the algorithm treated everybody the same. So I was on the same algorithm as MSNBC and CNN, and when I beat them. We all killed them.
Yeah,
right. And then
I remember that back in like 2015, 2016. I remember that.
Yes. And then as soon as the apocalypse happened in 2017, that all slowed. And now there's been a ratcheting up that is just, my growth has stopped. And I'm not the only one, right? So Secular Talk, lots of people have been talking about this and doing videos about it. And so, it's wild. It's like, why they're afraid to give us a level playing field. I just want a level playing field. And of course, that idea that somehow we get the news wrong and NBC and New York Times get it right when they've gotten Russiagate wrong, Syria wrong, Iraq wrong, Libya wrong, Venezuela wrong, Bolivia wrong. Is there anything they haven't gotten wrong? And how about Fauci, who was out there saying don't wear masks, which he knew it was a lie at the time. And then he tells people, when people ask him, why were you telling people not to wear masks? And he said, that's because we were afraid they would go buy masks, and then we wouldn't have enough masks for the hospital workers. So you as a doctor gave people incorrect information that put their lives at risk. So how many thousands of people died because of that? So that guy doesn't get banned from Twitter. People literally got sick and died because of that. And that guy should be a criminal, but he's given a pass because he's lying for the establishment, and because he was seen as anti-Trump. So anybody anti-Trump is seen as the resistance. And everybody forgets he lied about that. He also lied about the herd immunity. He started saying we'd need to get 60% of the people, and then when he saw the polls go up that people would be open to it, he started bumping that number up, and he said because the polls were going up, meaning I've been lying to you. And now I'm going to tell you the truth. So this guy is a pathological liar, and but it's okay. Everybody worships him like he's some kind of truth teller. So this idea that you get the truth from Chris Cuomo, who lied about coronavirus coming out of his basement, by the way, he had come out a week earlier. That came out. The guys like Geraldo, they're all carnival barkers. They're just as big a liars as Trump, and somehow they're better than him. It's fucking amazing what Chris Cuomo has gotten away with, and somehow that's seen respectable news. That's respect. No, so the whole point of YouTube is that we debunk that kind of shit. So now it's not YouTube news anymore. So I forgot the question, but I think it was how I unwind. I guess the thing is, Richard, I'll tell you, is that just like Joe Rogan, they can't. The problem is I don't have a supervisor. They can't call. I'm not looking for a job inside the industry. So that's the usual pressure they use to coerce someone and control someone like me. But I don't have that, and that's why I left. Jesus Christ, the Young Turk. So I never wanted. They never had control of me, but I did feel a debt to them, right? Like I didn't want to expose them to any kind of trouble. So now that I'm free of them, I don't have to worry about that. I only have to worry about myself. And that's what kills them. That's what kills the establishment. They can't control me. Ryan Grimm can't report me to my manager. Like Ryan Grimm from The Intercept, who tweeted out, I did a bit making fun of how boring he is. And he retweeted the clip. He clipped it and retweeted it, thought that I was going to get me in trouble or something. Like, that's one of the funniest things I like. I retweeted it. I go, thanks for the views. Like, what are you doing? Like, who do you think you're getting? I'm a fucking comedian. I'm a clown outing you for being hypocrites. I'm a fucking professional clown pothead, and I do it better than you. Isn't it amazing? I mean, think about that. Can you imagine, like if you go to The Intercept, where's their article debunking Russiagate? It doesn't exist. Where's their articles telling you the truth about the Syrian gas attack? It doesn't exist. Right? What do you get? You get fucking articles, and you get podcasts that run interference for the Squad and the Democrats. It's unbelievable. And then they get rid of their number one journalist, probably one of the number one, if not top 5 journalists of our generation. He broke 2 of the biggest stories of our generation by far. He got Lula which is the biggest lefty in the southern hemisphere. He got laws changed. He got that guy to prison. He's going to take over and become president again. I mean, that's a guy who's really using, and they're the ones who they're shitting on him at The Intercept and in the United States, by the way. All right, of course, because he exposes power and he doesn't play partisan politics. So if you don't play partisan politics and you expose power, you'll be smeared. Well, look at what the Washington Post has written about me. Look at what the New York Daily Magazine wrote about me. Look at what the Daily Beast, what Newsweek writes about me. Look at what the Young Turk says about me. Look what Ryan Grimm says about. Go ahead. That's what the establishment is going to say about you if you actually do good work and expose power.
Yep, absolutely. Although I can't see what Young Turk said. They blocked me. I don't know why, but all of them, Anna, your former colleagues blocked me, Jimmy. But you're absolutely right. Glenn is definitely one of the best journalists of our time. Like just to underscore your point, I knew who he was before I even gave a shit about anything to do with journalism. I mean, I was obviously following politics, but like when the NSA story broke. I mean, that's, as you mentioned, it's one of the biggest, the Snowden story, one of the biggest, not just releases, but, holding power accountable, one of the biggest times that happened in modern history. And as you mentioned, Lula as well. And they get rid of like one of their, that's just vindictive what they did. That just shows you that they're dishonest. It's really bad, but I guess it's for the better, right? Because they as you've seen, I'm sure that they're really mad at people going their own way now on Substack and where again
they try to denigrate it. That's bad. And yeah. So it's they try to denigrate. So oh my God, you're somehow you're doing a grift. If people like you so much, they want to pay you directly. That's somehow grift. But you're not doing a grift if you work for a newspaper that's owned by a billionaire that's pro-war and anti-worker. Somehow that's not a grift. No, actually, people with talent don't need a platform. I don't need the New York Times. I don't need HBO or Comedy Central anymore to validate me. I have YouTube. I can go right to the people, and the people can tell me if I'm funny or if they like my news or if they like my commentary or if they I know I don't need 10 motherfuckers in between me and the audience to let them. Oh, we've approved. We've chosen. We've interviewed people, and we figured out this is the guy that should tell you the news. It's Brian Williams, Chris Hayes, and Rachel Maddow. We've chosen them for you. You know what? If they are so good, why doesn't Chris Hayes start his own fucking YouTube channel? Why would he want to have 10 bosses above him? Why would he want to have his hands tied? Why he can go talk about Gaza all day like he claims he wants to. He can go do fucking climate change stories like he claims he wants to. He can go do whatever he wants. Well, you know why? Because no one would fucking watch that show.
Have you seen how their quality has just gone like this after the pandemic when they're at home and like they don't know how to work alone. They're complete fucking failures. They have no clue how to do any of this. It really exposed them. So
I loved watching the late night. I loved watching the late night talk show hosts from their house. It was absolutely zero reason to watch those shows. That was not even entertainment. It was exposed. It ripped the mask off. And that they're mostly lighting and band sound effects. I mean, that's what those late night talk shows have turned into. I can't believe that television still exists the way it does. It's so stupid.
They should fucking pay us to watch them, man. Anyway, Jimmy, where can people find more of your work and where can they follow you? And please
go to JimmyDoreComedy.com. Go to JimmyDoreComedy.com. Go to JimmyDoreComedy. That's where everything is. Oh, I'm getting texted. I wonder who's texting me. Uh-oh. I must have. I always think I missed a meeting.
All right. So, it
was High Times. High Times said you get 25% off your High Times delivery order today. Check out the menu. We're ready to deliver the goods. And they give me a link. So
all right, nice. Hold on. I'm pulling up your page on the screen so people see it. There you go. JimmyDoreComedy.com. Go ahead, go follow Jimmy, go support his work, support his brilliant stuff. And Jimmy, with that said, again, I want to thank you so much for everything you do, for coming on the show, for standing up to these warmongers and not letting them drag Syria's name through the dirt, because that's what the last whole decade has been about. So I'm really grateful to you. Thank you so much, Jimmy.
Okay, my pleasure, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
Will do. All right, take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, that was wonderful. Jimmy Dore, everybody, Jimmy Dore. So I'm gonna cut the live stream right here and start a new one back up in just a second. So don't go anywhere, just refresh the channel and we'll be right back to keep on discussing the news.